Thank you.
Senator Rafferty, we are live.
Thank you. Good morning, folks, and welcome to the Maine State Legislature's 130th legislature. My name is Joe Rafferty. I am Senate Chair of the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. This morning, we have some presentations from folks in a number of different areas. And thank you for joining us in that. A lot of information will be provided, and they'll have an opportunity for our committee members to ask some questions and for clarifications as we go through. Prior to getting started, if you would all keep in mind that we are guests in one another's homes, and that would help us in terms of our approach to one another throughout the meetings. I will also give opportunity to each committee member to introduce themselves, and keep in mind for us as legislatures, we are, as I say, maybe coming and going and throughout different meetings because we have other obligations, potential testimony and so forth going on in other committees. So that said, I'll turn it over to my co-chair, Representative Brennan.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty. Good morning. My name is Michael Brennan. I represent District 36, which is part of Portland.
Thank you. Senator Daughtry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. I am Maddie Daughtry, and I represent Senate District 24, which are the communities of Brunswick, Harpswell, North Yarmouth, Freeport, and Pownell. And good morning, everyone.
Good morning, and thank you. Senator Woodson.
Morning, Dave Woodson, Senate District 33, which is the northwestern part of York County along the New Hampshire border.
Thank you. Representative Dodge. Representative Dodge, no audio. Okay, we'll come back to you. It will happen for you. Representative Lyman.
Good morning, Sheila Lyman, District 74, J. Livermore Falls, and part of Livermore. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Millette.
I'm Rebecca Millette. I represent House District 30, which is most of Cape Elizabeth.
Thank you. Representative Roach.
Morning, Tim Roach, District 7, Wells.
Thank you. Representative Salisbury.
Good morning. My name is Sue Salisbury, and I represent House District 35, which is part of Westbrook.
Thank you. Representative Sampson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Heidi Sampson, representing the good people of House District 21, Alfred, Limerick, Shapley, Newfield, and Parsonsfield.
Thank you. Representative Stearns.
Good morning. My name is Paul Stearns. I represent House District 119, which is located in Piscataquis County.
Thank you. And Representative Dodge, any luck?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jan Dodge. I represent House District 97, which is Belfast, Northport, and Waldo. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning and thank you. We also have folks that are with our committee day to day. Our committee clerk, Eli Murphy. Good morning, Eli. Thank you for your help today. Eli will help folks that are attendees that might be transitioning in to address some, to speak or address some issues for the committee. And also our analyst. Good morning, Hillary. Hillary Risler is, she'll be with us. She offers a lot of insight, information, and helps us stay on track. That said, we do have some presentations, and I think the first person up is Dr. Resner Naiman he is the superintendent of the Maine Indian Education. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning again. And I wanted to thank everyone and appreciate the opportunity to to present to the Maine Legislative Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. I appreciate the opportunity and invitation, an opportunity for the committee to learn more about the Maine Indian education and the work that we do, the challenges we encounter, and find out if there's anything the committee can do to help us. And we appreciate that invitation. I wanted to give you a snapshot of the Maine Indian education, its governance, funding sources, our initiatives, and our challenges, and talk to you about some of our shared vision for the future. I'm also very excited to have our own Representative Rena Newell joining us to talk about the Wabanaki culture and history. Maine Indian education is an education institution with accountabilities to both federal government as well as the state. We report to the federal government through Bureau of Indian Affairs, or BIA, and Bureau of Indian Education, or BIE we refer to. We follow the federal government and Bureau of Indian Affairs as well as the Maine general laws and statutes. We don't have things with to do with the collective bargaining. So I know some superintendents perhaps are excited about that opportunity. We work through the tribal government entity, and therefore we don't have the collective bargaining to work with. For example, our hiring process has to follow the federal government, and through that process, we have to do FBI background check. We have to do a tribal court and all the appropriate federal agencies. And what the federal government or BI, Bureau of Indian Affairs, does not consider is a CHRC, which we have to use for certification. State of Maine is sufficient. So we have to do additional federal background check as a federal employee. We also were successful to receive a waiver for our assessment. That meant that since we have two entities to report to, we had to administer the assessments to both for Maine, state of Maine assessment, as well as the federal government or BIE assessments. So we filed a waiver to U.S. Department of Education as well as the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And thanks to the help of Commissioner Macon, as well as all the school committee members and U.S. Department of Education, we finally received a waiver. That means that we only administer Maine assessment, and then we submit our results to the federal government. So we don't have to do two sets of assessments. As you know, there are two sets of tribal government settings. One is directly as a tribal school, which means you log into the tribal government and BIE, or you're a grant school. Maine Indian Education considers to be a grant school. That means Maine Indian Education reports to a school board, elected officials. And we have Passamaquoddy Indian Township School Committee. Passamaquoddy is a Baha'i Elementary School Committee in Pleasant Point, and Penobscot Indian Island School Committee in Indian Island. Maine Indian Education has about 350 students in grades pre-K to 8 and 140 staff. We also have 134 grade 9 to 12 students who tuition out to the local high schools. We have Passamaquoddy Indian Township School in Indian Township, Maine, with about 111 students in grades pre-K to 8 and 45 staff. We have 55 grades 9 to 12 students who tuition out to the local high school. In each one of the schools, we also have a native language teacher. Passamaquoddy is a Baha'i Elementary School in Pleasant Point with 149 students, grades K to 8, 38 staff, and a federally funded Head Start program that serves about 25 students. We have 38 students that are in grade 9 to 12 and tuition out to the local high schools. Penobscot Indian Island School in the Indian Island has about 88 students, grade pre-K to 8, and 34 staff. 44 of those students in grade 9 to 12 tuition out to the local high schools. In terms of the funding, we basically receive funding from BIE to support our grade K to 8 programming. In addition, we have entitlement funds such as Title I and the federal IDEA Special Education Fund. The funding is based on the student enrollment data and census data. that verifies whether students are Native Americans or not. We also receive state of Maine funding to support our students for grades 9 to 12 who tuition out, and 2 local pre-K programs that we have. And the funding on that is based on enrollment of October 1 of each year. Our guiding values is based on rigor, relevancy, and relationship. When we refer to rigor, we don't necessarily refer to being more difficult. We just mean to be more challenging, innovative, and fun. When we refer to relevancy, we are a personalized curriculum. We have a personalized curriculum that would integrate our culture, language, heritage, and individuals' passion and dreams to build a roadmap to success. Our definition of success is not necessary to have all college graduates, but rather identifying after middle school if a student wants to be a carpenter, electrician, artist, engineer, or just not sure. We follow every student's emotional academic progress and provide a response to intervention, which is, or RTI, in each school setting, which targets specific needs of that particular student. Relationship is extremely important. We build in a heritage of a culture keepers, our elders and mentors, and have appropriate guidance counselors and social workers that really help to have every child be connected to an adult. We do have an ethical responsibility to assist all our students to realize their full potential. Our approach to galvanizing our Maine Indian education staff is a system approach. We have 3 goals for this year. One is Wabanaki studies. The other is a blended learning. And third is the RTI, or positive behavior intervention. Wabanaki studies, we partner with organizations such as REACH, Wabanaki Alliance, and others. We committed to increase the relevancy of our programming, and we're beginning the professional development opportunities to increase the knowledge of Wabanaki history, culture, and life. And we look forward to providing ongoing training to support educators and integrate Wabanaki studies across the continent area. Blended learning is an opportunity for us to learn and teach teachers and help parents to learn about remote learning and teaching and its tools, as well as a shift back into the regular classroom. Since there is an ongoing shift back and forth, we want to be prepared to transition in and out to the remote. And then we also have respond to intervention, or positive behavior intervention, which is all about restorative justice and positive behavior intervention. Things that we can celebrate is our implementation of We Care initiative. We Care initiative basically provides 24-hour access to behavioral and emotional support through health practitioners to all our students, parents, and staff. We have successful implementation of pool testing that's helping us to keep our schools open, because we believe students are safest when they're in school. We also integrated a unique UV Masters unit. We provide state-of-the-art ultraviolet product, the unit that really eliminates up to 99.9% of viruses, bacteria, including COVID virus. Initially, when in March, when we were dealing with COVID, we thought it was more of a surface area, so we had to clean more often. When the issue was more about the airborne, so we got this unit, which basically remotely be able to turn on in the hallway, classroom, the gym, and we'd be able to have significant reduction in the existing airborne particles. So we have that in school, as well as the air filtration. So we not only attack the virus with the airborne particles, but we also have a filtration process. We implemented a Parents Academy, which is very crucial. And we have incentives for parents to take courses. And after a series of incentives, we have a series of gifts that we provide to the parents. And the courses are basically dealing with nutrition, substance abuse, and basically guiding good choices. We partner with the Maine, University of Maine, in particular Machias, GMRI, and WAYS to integrate cultural knowledge and science in our schools and communities, and to create a connected learning ecosystem unit for teachers and educators, and basically is a peer community support learning experience that uses our tradition and culture regarding the environmental studies. Educators have been going way beyond since the shutdown in March and helping us. Communication with the students and families have been regular, and the schools have been incredibly responsive to the needs. Some of our challenges that I may indicate to you are providing adequate broadband to each community with the technology for remote learning. It's important to have that tool. Provide expanded and extended learning to address the issue of the learning gaps due to pandemic. Address the impact of COVID and remote learning on our students with disabilities. To address the issue of promotion to the next grade level, to redefine success, focus more on growth rather than just learning benchmarks. To redesign accountability, assessment, and time of learning, and reduce the significant rate of student dropouts for grades 9 to 12. And provide an alternative pathways to college success and careers. Our vision is to develop and implement a system of pre-K to 14. And the reason we refer to that as pre-K to 14, because we know high school diploma is not good enough. So we give opportunity to students for 14 years to have either diploma, to receive a diploma as well as an associate degree. So we had a conversation with the University of Maine at Machias recently to be able to perhaps work on implementing in a high school at the UMaine with a residential component where the students enter at the 11th grade, follow through their programming, and when they graduate, they either have a career and certification or have associate degree with the articulation that will begin junior and senior year at the college. And our hope is to be able to amend our graduation for the high school to have a Wabanaki core that provides flexibility for our Native American students to take courses in their language and culture, history courses more relevant to Wabanaki history, culture and science and math, which is more connected to Native American than Western culture. Connection with the environment, community service, and use of our Wabanaki culture keepers. Our college and career pathways for 134 students and a regional community center, adult and community center to help them. That is the vision that we had, and we recently were working toward presenting a grant to the state that at the Zabagi Elementary School, which is a beautiful new school, to use a former Beatrice Rafferty, which is a tribal government office, and use that as a community and adult education. We'll be able to offer high set or high school equivalency, as well as some college and career. And we applied for that to the state. But unfortunately, I think they told us that tribal government is not qualified. But I think opportunities like that is going to help us to address our needs. So I'm open to any questions, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions from committee members, please? Senator Woodson.
Thank you. What would you say your top 3 needs are in education?
Currently addressing our students, 9 to 12 grade students need, because they tuition out to local schools. And we wanted to have an opportunity to continue to help them, continue to be with them, and support them. So I think the significant need that we have is to create perhaps a regional Wabanaki high school that we be able to serve those 134 students.
Okay, and is a CTE center available to your students?
Locally, we do have through Pleasant Point community, we have adult education that work with the Washington Academy and perhaps Calais. So the centers are not near the communities, but they're close enough to be transported.
And do you know how many students attend those?
I know about 10 students taking part on those community certification programming. 134 are going to local schools to get their grades.
And if I may have one more question, how would LD 1626, the self-governance bill before the legislature now, how is that going to affect education?
It's going to cost basically us to lose $6 million through the support that we receive from the state. So we have to address the funding for the grade 9 to 12 and some of the fundings that we receive. So that's going to be something we have to address.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sir, before I take the next question, can you confirm what that dollar figure was?
We basically receive about 61% from BIE and 39% funding from state of Maine. And when you refer to the state of Maine, it's about $6.9 million that we receive.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Representative Millet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Dr. Naiman. I've just been briefly going onto the DOE's data website to look up just a couple of the schools, and Indian Township. Now, I'm having a hard time finding the data for years earlier than 2021, which obviously it's just not a normal year. The chronic absenteeism rate is like 75%. It's stunning, but I do recognize that it's a year that is very challenging. So I went back to look at prior years and I can't seem to find anything. Do you happen to, would you be able to share with our committee, not this morning, obviously, because this is coming at you out of left field, but I would like to be able to see data from earlier years just to get a better sense of chronic absenteeism within our schools.
I think what the issue was that prior to my start, there was a significant issue because we report to BIE, our data gets reported to the BIE. And I think the reporting to the state of Maine, we had to do a better job to complete those. Our accountability was for pre-K to 8 to the BIE, and for the 9 to 12 is to basically state of Maine. So we updated those data. So I think the issue is regarding the data reporting for the two accountabilities. So I will compile the report for you. I'm happy to send it to the chair or Hillary.
Thank you. Representative Brennan.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty. And Dr. Neiman, thank you for being here. And I do have a couple of questions for you in just a second. But first, Senator, if it's okay, could we ask Representative Newell, who is with us and is a colleague of ours in the House, if she'd like to make any additional comments at this point?
Certainly. Thank you. And welcome, Representative Newell.
Good morning. Thanks for having me along. I received an invitation to just kind of join in as Dr. Reza. Good morning, Dr. Reza. Presented this morning to the committee. So I would just want to just listen along, and I was encouraged to come on as a panelist. However, I was okay to remain in the waiting room. But just to introduce myself again, Rena Newell, and I serve as the Passamaquoddy Tribal Representative, and it's good to be with all of you this morning. And I extend appreciation and thankfulness for your invitation to have our superintendent for Maine Indian Education present to the committee this morning.
Thank you.
Well,
Senator, if I could,
yeah.
follow up with a couple of questions at this point of Dr. Naiman? Thank you. And Doctor, thank you for being here with us, and thank you for the presentation. And I'm hopeful that you might be able to send us a summary of your. I couldn't write down all the numbers quite quickly enough. And if you could send that to us or point me in the right direction where I could find that, that would be hugely helpful. And I have a couple of real in the weeds question that has always kind of puzzled me. And you've answered partially the question I've had, but from your presentation, what it sounds like is that does Chapter 1 or Title 1 and special education money come to you directly from BIA?
Yes.
And the only money that you get from the state is for tuition reimbursement at the high school level? Or do you also get special education money from the state as well?
Our revenue is from Title I and IDEA funding from special ed comes through the federal government, through BIA.
Directly, okay. So the only state source of funding is for the tuition for students at the high school from the 9th to 12th grade?
No, there are some additional fundings that the state supports us, such as state of Maine. We get a title
Pre-K,
for the pre-K. Yes.
Okay, so you got pre-K. So the BIA does not fund pre-K and it's not fund high school.
Yes. Also, state of Maine, the Title VII Indian culture funding. We get some help regarding the nutrition.
Okay.
So we get some help from the state, and when we see the opportunity to apply, we do that. But yes, about 39% of that funding revenue comes from the state.
Okay. Well, and I know Representative Millett and Senator Wisdom asked a similar question, but possibly going forward, and at some point we could have a discussion if there are areas that the state could be more helpful in a targeted way and address some of the issues that you've talked about in terms of absenteeism and also with high school graduation. So again, thank you for being here, and hopefully we can have those conversations moving forward.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the questions. I definitely will send a copy of my report. I will send a report that's submitted to the BIE and more accurate data, and I forward it to Hillary or the chair, whoever you wish, and make sure you have copies of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Crockett has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I suppose I owe you all an introduction since I was a little late coming to the meeting. So first of all, I'm Ed Crockett from District 43, which is part of Portland and part of Falmouth. Question is for Dr. Naiman, and I may have missed it a little bit in your notes, and I look forward to seeing your presentation here in hard copy form. You mentioned something about 9 through 14. And I was trying to catch exactly what that was because I'm not familiar with any programming currently beyond 12. It was that specific to the Machias campus for the University of Maine. Could you just kind of clear that up for me a little bit?
Sure. I think I drive people crazy when they ask me, what is your vision? And I kind of, because we do the same thing for years, and we're going to have to think about doing things a bit different. So the school systems were always traditionally being pre-K to 12. And my vision is that to have a continuation of the 2 years of the community college at the site, at the school, or partner with the local community college, so the kids will continue their education to get the associate degree and have a 14 years to get that rather than 12 years to get a diploma. And I know the initiative talking about free community college. The idea is that the Students needs to be after the middle school. We need to determine where the pathway is, what the hope and vision of that child is. And then you create a roadmap, and you have from the middle school an opportunity to see where the child is going to be. That could be to get a certification of career path. That could be to enter a 2-year community college or continue the schooling to get the associate degree. And you have an articulation with the local university that when they complete their associate degree, they're going to continue the 3rd year and 4th year at the university. So it's basically a vision I have about restructuring our pre-K to 12 to a pre-K to 14, where we give our students an opportunity to get what's adequate now, because high school diploma is not adequate, to address our significant disfranchised students that we don't have relevancy into their curriculum, and give them an opportunity to pathway to either college or career. And I think that's the intention. And so we met with the University of Maine at Machias, and we had a conversation because we have an opportunity to have the space residential component of Wabanaki study program that's offered at the University of Maine. An opportunity was perhaps we could have our 11th grade enter, because there is the same model in Massachusetts called Accelerated Math and Science Academy that's located at Worcester Polytech Institute. So the idea was presented to UMaine Machias that we will have a Wabanaki High School. Let's begin at 11th grade so we can support our students into a pathway to certification or college, with the opportunity to continue all the way through the UMaine system for their bachelor's degree, and have that opportunity to be 11th to 12 with the continuation of 13 and 14.
Thank you very much for that clarification. And I will say, certainly, personally, I really appreciate hearing some of these outside the normal box ideas. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We were also joined while we started by Representative McCray. I give him an opportunity to say hello.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Dave McCray. I live in the central part of Aroostook County, representing District 148. My apologies for being late, but I was with another committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Folks, do we have any other questions at this time? Not seeing any, sir. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your work, and good luck to you with your continued efforts. And please keep in touch. In terms of providing information that we asked for, if you could do so to Ms. Risler, she'll distribute it to the committee.
I'll make sure to do that. It's nice meeting everyone, and thank you again for the opportunity to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Bye, Renee.
Hillary. Did you want to say, speak at all prior to, I think, do I have this right, that the CDS is up first? We're going to go in that order.
Sure, although I do know that Terry Hayes from the Maine Health and Higher Educational Facilities Authority also has to be in state and local this morning. So if she is here, it might be helpful to do hers first before she has to run over there. Both that one and the CDS one should be pretty quick though. It's the higher ed ones that can be a little bit more lengthy.
Okay, so if we could, Eli, if you could help that transition for us. Thank you.
And while he's doing that, if it's all right with the committee, I'm just going to do a quick screen share and a quick little overview of this process. For those of you who haven't done this before, I think it will be a lot like the GEA in terms of starting the review process, getting the reports and getting some information. Certainly, if the committee is ready to move forward with any discussion and vote today, you can. Although I think if you want a chance to digest some of this information, there's no reason we can't put it back on the schedule in a week or two. And or of course, if you want any additional information, I can work to help collect that from the various entities. And again, bring it back on the schedule in a week or two. So very briefly, I'm going to this is the overview that I sent you in your email as well. But for anyone who didn't have a chance, my computer is being a little slow right now, so give me just a moment. Okay, there we go. So what is a quasi-independent state entity? It is defined in Title V as an organization that has been established by the legislature as an independent board, commission, or agency to fulfill government purposes and that receives revenues that are derived in whole or in part from federal or state taxes or fees. The Education Committee has 5 independent entities under your jurisdiction, which includes Child Development Services, or CDS, Community College System, the Maine Health and Higher Educational Facilities Authority, the Maine Maritime Academy, and the University of Maine System. So what is required of the entities relevant to this review is that they have to adopt and implement written policies on procurement, selection of vendors to ensure the entity gets best value. And to the extent possible, policies must establish competitive procurement at standard. They have to adopt and implement written policies on the use of resources for contributions. To the extent possible, policies must ensure contributions are directly related to the entity's mission and activities. They have to adopt and implement written policies on travel, meals, and entertainment. And to the extent possible, the policies must limit travel, meal, or entertainment costs to reasonable and necessary to carrying out mission and activities. And they have to submit an annual report, which you just received over the last week. And these reports must include a list of procurements exceeding $10,000 in the preceding year for which competitive procurement was waived, a list of persons to which entity made contributions of greater than $1,000 in preceding year and the amount of contributions, and the description of changes made in the preceding year to any of their written policies and procedures. As I noted, this is an annual report. However, the committee's review is only done in the second regular session, so that is why you have 2 reports for each of the entities. So what is your role in the process? As I said, in the second regular session, the committee is required to review the quasi-independent entities' annual reports to the legislature for the 2 previous calendar years, and any additional information as necessary, which you could request today, and assess whether the policies adopted by the entity are consistent with the requirements of statute that I just reviewed, that the reported waivers of competitive procurement are in compliance with adopted policies, and that reported contributions are in compliance with adopted policies. I will tell you, when this review process started years ago, there was more focus on the adoption of the original policies. Since then, the focus has certainly been more on whether there have been any changes to written policies or procedures and on the actual procurements and contributions themselves. Certainly, however, if the committee wants to get full copies of all of the policies, I can certainly work with the entities to gather those for you and get those to you for review. At the end of your review, the committee is required to report the results of your review to the Government Oversight Committee, and that is due by March 1st. So we do have a few weeks. One thing, I'll show you a sample report that was done for this process during the 129th. Again, similar to the GEA, it's usually written in terms of a letter to the chairs of GOC. The committee has generally reported that they have done the review. In this particular case, the committee found that they did not find any inconsistencies between policies and procedures, reported waivers of competitive procurement, or reported contributions. And similar to as we did with the GEA, at that time, that committee wanted to add an additional comment about appreciating the level of detail for the Maine Maritime, Maine Community College, and University of Maine system. It allows the committee to understand the procurements that occur at the public higher education institutions. And I think appreciation of that way of doing the report has led to those reports being a little bit longer, but a little bit easier to understand what was going on and why those amounts were made. Last but not least, before we get started on the reports and presentations themselves, I just wanted to mention one of the reports today, obviously, is the CDS report. The chairs have specifically requested that the Department of Education just focus on the quasi-independent state entity report for today. As you know, there's a much larger annual report for CDS. It's actually due February 15th, but I received it early just today. And so I'll be sending that full annual report out later today, and the chairs will be working to get that scheduled in the next few weeks. But today they are just doing the quasi-independent entity report, which for CDS is pretty short. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that that was all they've been asked to do today, and that will get on the schedule, that bigger annual report, in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you as always, Hillary. Appreciate it. That said, then we'll just due to time constraints of Ms. Hayes, we would ask that we'll actually give you the floor and give you a chance to get started. We will probably have some brief questions potentially when we're done, but thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the State's Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. Ms. Risler, I need to correct an understanding. I actually had my presentation with state and local government yesterday and had miscalendared and put them both on my, that's why I was here early. I wanted to make sure I didn't hold you folks up at all. There are three quasis that I am responsible for: the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, the Maine Health and Higher Educational Facilities Authority, and the Maine Governmental Facilities Authority. The other two authorities are overseen by the State and Local Government Committee. So we did both of those yesterday. Health and Higher Educational Facilities Authority is one of our most valuable clients here at the bond bank, but itself doesn't have any employees. All of the employees are employees of the bond bank, and we service all of the administrative needs for the bonds that help finance infrastructure improvements in Maine's healthcare and higher educational institutions. I provided a letter, this year's letter, indicating that the only thing that we have that we I would think by strict interpretation of the law would go out to RFP on our trustee. We have a contract for trustee services for all of the bondholders for the Health and Higher Educational Facilities Authority. And we've been using US Bank for that purpose since the program began. They have not increased their fees and they provide excellent service. Those were the reasons that the board, the Health and Higher Educational Facility Authority has a board of 12 appointed by the governor, and 4 of those 12 are on the board as ex officio members. They include the state treasurer, representation from the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Education through the commissioner's offices. And I can't remember who the 4th one is at the moment. I apologize. So that board is aware of and has supported us continuing using the trustee services with US Bank. Other than that, there's no contributions that are made. There's no lobbying that occurs. There also are no state appropriations to the health and higher educational facilities, and no federal money that comes direct. The cost of that MAHIFA pays the bond bank is money that's generated out of a fee structure around the bond sales that we take to the market and administer after sale. And I would happily try to answer any of your questions.
Folks, do we have any? Yes, Representative Salisbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks so much for your information. As a new legislator, I was wondering if you could explain to me what exactly this group is. I don't have any frame of reference for that. So I was hoping to glean some of that from some information you prepared. I didn't know if you could give a snippet of that.
Representative Salisbury, thank you. I'm happy to provide a context, and I apologize for not starting there. Maine Health and Higher Educational Facilities Authority was organized, it's a creation of a legislature, passed by the legislature. The intent was to provide a means, it's all structured around the federal tax code. Okay, so if that doesn't make your eyes roll back in your head, I'll get there in a minute. So when hospitals and higher educational institutions need to build or renovate facilities, they're looking for capital financing, and we can provide them access to the bond market in a collective program. Maine actually has the only moral obligation pooled program, loan program for their higher ed and hospital or healthcare facilities in the country. In other states, the only thing that their health and higher ed authorities do is do conduit funding, which is the way you get tax exemption. And if you go into the bond market, you're either selling taxable bonds or tax exempt bonds. And there's a different, you can sell both, but you save money on, and the folks who invest in the tax exempt bonds, they seem to be high, they're in a higher demand because the bondholders don't have to pay taxes on the interest that those bonds earn, okay? So with our Moral Ob program, it was set up years ago so that we keep the last, at least the last payment, sometimes the last two payments in a reserve fund, which helps manage the risk. When we were starting the program, when you go into the bond market, you're asking folks to invest generally for the long term. Most of the bonds we're selling, they're none shorter than 5 years. And I think they max out at 30. So, and bond investors are making a long-term commitment, and they want to know whatever we can do to minimize the risk, the perceived risk of those bonds enhances or lowers the interest rate that we end up paying. So our moral obligation program has existed from the mid-1980s, and it allows us to access that money for capital improvements or new construction at a lower carrying cost for the borrowers. And we have a fee structure within the program so that we generate the revenue that we need to cover our costs for doing that work. The bond bank manages the program. So if there were an umbrella, it would be the bond bank. And then the bond bank has some of its own bonding programs. Your city, I'm sorry, Representative Salisbury, tell me, are you Westbrook?
Yes.
Do I remember that? Okay. So the city of Westbrook may be a borrower. I didn't look it up. I probably should have. If I looked across the geography of the committee. But the bond bank pools loans for towns, municipalities, for sewer and water districts, okay, to help support lower cost for that financing of infrastructure that then benefits the entire community, okay? HEFA is the same concept, only specifically targeted for higher ed. And technically, if you read the statute, any nonprofit organization with an education component to its mission might be an eligible borrower within the program. Think Maine Historical Society as an example, okay? They have a significant educational component to their mission. They might be an applicant or borrow from us just the way a college or recently we financed a loan for some improvements at Cheverus High School, another nonprofit institution, but with a significant education mission. So we're a vehicle for accessing those monies at a lower cost. And you folks oversee that this financial piece, making sure that our operation on behalf of HEFA is consistent with the state law. And that's our policy that the letter addresses to. Does that help?
Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
If you're not aware, the bond bank is located in Augusta. If you've been to the Civic Center, you've driven right by. You know where Bangor Savings Bank is, right on the main drag, okay? We own that building. We operate the second, in the second and the third floors, and Bangor is our tenant in the first floor. Feel free, if you're in the neighborhood, let us know you're coming. We don't have public access because of COVID, but we can entertain visitors one at a time. If we know you're coming, we're happy to show you around and explain more of the details if you're in Augusta.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate the information.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you. And we have a question from Representative Crockett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm a first timer on this committee as well, Ms. Hayes. And you were terrific in explaining that, even though most of it probably still just totally sailed over my head. Question I have, in the letter, there's reference to a treasurer's report. Is that something that is included for our review at this time?
I did not include it. It would basically what it would consist of. We do an entire audit. We have Baker, Newman and Noyes that have provided audit services for HIFA, and they completed their audit in October, and we submitted it at that time. I think it's due by October 15th. We have 3 complete audits, one for all of the bond bank's programs, direct bond bank programs, one for the Health and Higher Educational Facilities Authority, and a separate one for Government Facilities Authority, which is doing financing for like the corrections center down in Wyndham and the new court facilities and things like that. So I was not prepared specifically to talk about it here, but we did in fact submit that each year by the 15th of October.
Thank you. Representative Millette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to, I think Representative Crockett, we get a host of emails from offices informing us that these various reports have been prepared and submitted. And oftentimes I think they even end up on our calendar that we just kind of gets read under the hammer in the chamber. So if if you're like me, I oftentimes put those in my admin file and with the optimistic expectation that I'll read them later, and then, you know, then I don't get there. But I do think we get a whole bunch of these sent to us. I can't remember, I'm sorry, but what particular office forwards those to us.
Thank you.
If I may, Senator Rafferty, just to give you a couple of examples, if you've been in the greater Portland area and you've seen the new site for Mercy, I think it's I can't remember the name of the street, but the new emergency department and so forth that exists, we helped finance that. We've got a significant project going on with Northern Light. I mentioned Cheverus High School, which is a small, I don't even think it was $1 million, but it was important roof repair or new roof for that facility. Our program officer is continually staying in touch with the CFOs at the different facilities. If you've been down out at Bar Harbor, there's a hospital out there on the island, and we've financed upgrades to their medical facility recently. We've got the College of Atlantic, some expansion to student housing that they're doing. We're working with the Maine Maritime Academy, included about $10 million, I think, 10 to 12 on our last sale that will help them with a brand new, I think it's a residential building, if I remember correctly. So we've got, I like to say to folks when they ask what I do, you know, what my job is, I tell them if they're driving on a paved road anywhere in Maine and they've driven over 10 miles, they've driven on or over or past something that we have helped finance for infrastructure purposes here from the bond bank. And the next time I appear before you, I will try to have examples from each of your districts that I can address specifically to say, not just HIFA, that again, HIFA is one of three entities here, but you and your constituents benefit in large part by us being able to keep the financing cost much lower than they would be just if the individual institutions went out on their own into the market.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Representative Brennan has a question.
Thank you, Senator Rafferty. My question is really for Ms. Frisler. I'm assuming when you did your presentation, you noted that there are three questions that the committee needs to answer in regards to these reports. And I'm assuming that we're looking to Ms. Hayes and other persons who will be presenting to answer those questions for us. Is that correct?
Sure, yeah. So what the committee is really looking at is in terms of these procurements, the report has to include these procurements that are exceeding 10,000, list of persons to which entity made contributions of greater than 1,000, and any changes made in preceding year to written policies and procedures. Right. And what the committee needs to review is just whether any of these are inconsistent with any of those policies. Right. When you're dealing with something like MAHEFA, which is a very, very short report, I think as she said, I don't think there were any, she didn't mention any changes of policies or things that were inconsistent, but that's something that everybody will probably be touching on.
Correct. So members of the committee, it's not a requirement to read through each one of the agency action and everything like that to determine. We're really looking when Ms. Hayes comes and does a presentation for her to flag anything that may be inconsistent or problematic. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Appreciate the clarifications. Folks, any other questions at this time of Ms. Hayes? Thank you very much for sitting with us this morning. You gave us a lot of information. I appreciate that, as well as the work you're doing on behalf of all of us. Obviously, I do a lot of traveling, so I'm sure I've touched upon a lot of those things you've mentioned. Representative Millette has another question, possibly? No. Would you like to speak?
Okay, that's all right. It's not a question.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just thinking this is one of the easier ones and shorter ones, and I'm just wondering if we could perhaps vote on the letter regarding the facilities letter for the GEA review.
Hillary, you good? That's possible at this time?
Sure, it's up to the committee whether you want to do them all individually or whether you want to do them all at once at the end. I do know 2 years ago, we just sort of did one letter for everybody at the end, but it's really up to the committee how you want to do that. If you feel like this one is good and you want to vote now, we can check it off the list.
I'm going to defer to the end then. It'd be in the essence of time. We'll just wait and do them all at once.
Sounds like you're finished with me, Senator Rafferty. Thank you all for your kind attention.
Yes, I'm very grateful for you being here. Thank you for doing so. You have a great day. And thank you for your work.
I will just note that if when the time comes for discussion and vote, if at that point the committee wants to vote them each individually, you could still do so.
Thank you, Hillary. Am I correct in the CDS is next?
And that will be Dr. Roberta Lucas.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and esteemed members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you this morning. I'm just going to do a brief overview of the quasi-independent state entity report, just because I know that you've all received it, and we will just going to share a few things that were added to this report based on some received COVID funds that we used and the increase of spending due to COVID-related increased cleaning. So we, on this report, we do spend money for a data system we call SYNC, which is the Child Information Network through Yaha Soft. That's typically on our report. We also have an independent audit that's done every year. This year, there were 3 sites that increased their cleaning due to COVID that cost, when we do those deep cleanings, 3 sites had to have increased cleaning. So that those companies were added to this report this time. And also we had asked for COVID relief funds, and we were granted some. And so we spent those funds on Apple devices for remote learning and for staff for remote evaluations. We also, as you will read in our next report, and that we look very forward to sharing with you, we increased opportunity for programming by building preschools. So we spent money with 3 contractors to update classrooms that were already on some sites and to increase classroom leasing so that we could program for children. So those were all spent through COVID relief funds. So those were the 3 big spends this year using COVID relief funds. There has been no change in policies or procedures at this time, and there were no changes in membership fees that we typically report.
Thank you, folks. Any questions relative to that report at this time? Yes, I have Representative Millette, followed by Senator Woodson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. I've lost you. There you are. Good morning, Ms. Lucas. So good to see you.
Good morning.
Can you update us on the memorandum of understanding between the Department of Education and Department of Health and Human Services? I thought that was under review, and maybe a new one had been created last year. Or
The memorandum of, we have a current memorandum of understanding that is in place that was signed in 2016-17, and that's currently in place. And the revision of the other memorandum is currently at the commissioner's offices in both DHHS and the commissioner's office.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Senator Woodson.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Lucas, you mentioned the COVID funds received and how it was spent. How much money did you receive and how much has been spent?
Those, that report is in our legislative report, and that's the extensive report. We asked for, and I don't have the figure right in front of me, my apologies, but it is in the legislative report, and it's in number 6 of the legislative report, and it explains what we received and how we use those funds. But it was a significant amount. I think it was 250,000, or give or take.
$250,000.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Folks, we have any other questions at this time of Ms. Lucas? Seeing none, again, thank you very much for being here this morning. We appreciate that. And thanks for your continued work. We'll see you again soon, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity.
We're going into the education piece. As far as I have Maine Maritime in this order, I have Maine Maritime, then Maine Community College, and then University of Maine System.
I believe Richard Rosen is here. Yep. Eli's way ahead of me.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Rosen.
Good morning, Senator Rafferty and Representative Brennan, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. I'm Richard Rosen. I serve as Vice President of Financial and Institutional Services at Maine Maritime Academy. And we're presenting for you this morning our report from fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021. As outlined in the earlier presentations, we have no changes in procurement, current existing procurement policies to report. The two reports outline all sole source purchases in excess of $10,000. And then they also outline all memberships that the Academy pays in excess of $1,000. For the FY 2021 report, the total of the items that are listed here amount to 8.01% of total procurement. And I won't go through the itemization, but I'm certainly happy to respond to any questions that you may have regarding any of the items in either report.
Any questions, folks? Mr. Rosen, I'm not seeing any hands or questions coming forward. I do actually have one. Representative Millette?
I think Representative Brennan had his hand up before me.
Well, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say hello to Senator Rosen. I haven't seen you in a while, and good to see you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Representative Brett. It's great to see you as well. And I'll also toss in a little bit of a plug from your earlier presenter from MAHIFA. As she mentioned, the Academy has recently participated in a round of borrowing that related to the funding that the legislature and that your committee supported to help us conduct the first phase of the refurbishment of Curtis Hall. And the help that MAHIFA provides in aggregating this borrowing for smaller entities like the Academy is cost effective and very helpful.
Well, thank you very much for that. We do have a couple of questions, I believe. Representative Millette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Senator Rosen. It's good to see you. I was hoping that you could just help me become a little more familiar with the Hermie Louise that has been donated to the Academy, and it looks like it's been a rather significant endeavor. So I just would like to know a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Certainly, that is an expense related to a donation that is part of our yacht donation program. And it is started as a small effort years ago and really has developed into quite an exciting program. And it's set up, to provide an opportunity for people that would like to make essentially a charitable donation of a vessel to the Academy. And our role in that process is to accept it, and then we have it in inventory for a period of time where it's made available through a brokerage for lease. And then after that brokerage period is satisfied, as it relates to the Internal Revenue Tax Code, then that donation is available for the Academy to sell and realize the proceeds. And so this is an example. This is one vessel that was donated and participates in that program. The proceeds over time, if we can build it up enough to an extent, will be used to help support waterfront program activities.
Mr. Chair, just a follow-up.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. So this is a financial program, not an academic program.
It is it's a financial program in that it is the academy receiving a gift,
Right.
managing according to the tax code, and then using the proceeds eventually when we can build up enough of a balance to help support the waterfront programs. As you know, the academy has, because most folks think of the academy with the state of Maine, the large training vessel, and the Bowdoin, but we have 60 vessels actually on the waterfront that are used for instruction. And so this is designed to help support the costs associated with that.
Thank you. Very informative.
Thank you both. Representative Crockett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome, President Rosen. It's hard to miss that the biggest expense is related to COVID testing through Jackson Laboratories. Couple questions. It was that a budgeted expense, and two, what impact did it have, and where do you see that going forward?
Just to clarify, I'm a VP, so unfortunately, you don't have the President Brennan in front of you today. That expense in FY21, which of course, we step back a moment and we go back to March of 2020, when we entered the mandatory shutdown of the operation, and the workforce and the students sent home, and entered July 1 as our fiscal year start date. And immediately we were confronted in the summer of 20, along with everyone else, of how to bring students back to campus. We have been operating since September of 2020 in person, with in-person instruction, because the nature of this program, the licensure requirements from the Coast Guard and so on require in-person instruction. So we had to figure out a variety of safety measures, and testing was one of those. And so at that time, there really wasn't a vendor, so to speak, that we could issue an RFP. And so Jackson Lab stepped up. We worked out this arrangement for our initial testing program. And yes, as you say, you can see that for that year, it was a considerable expense. And no, it was not budgeted. None of the COVID-related expenses were budgeted at that time. We were fortunate during the year, though. We did receive funding through the CARES Act to help offset many of the COVID-related expenditures, and testing certainly was one of them. You asked about going forward. So on a go-forward basis, so obviously we're still testing to this day. The nature of the testing products, of course, have changed. We continue to have a relationship with Jackson Lab, but we now are, which is a PCR test, but most of our testing now really is antigen tests. And fortunately, our population, our students and workforce right now are in the 96 to 98% vaccination rate. And so folks have really stepped up, and our testing is currently for symptomatic and still a certain level of random testing. And of course, testing is critically important for the training cruises. And we've had 3 cruises since COVID started go out, where we have to have everyone vaccinated and tested and hermetically sealed, basically, once they get underway, so that there's no outbreak. And so testing is particularly important for the training cruises as well.
Thank you very much for that information and clarification. And I have high hopes for you with respect to titles. So I just want to pass that along.
Thank you. Any additional questions, folks, of Mr. Rosen? Not seeing any, sir. Again, thank you very much for your time with us this morning. The information is very helpful, and we appreciate the work you continue to do at the Academy. So good luck to you moving forward, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next up, I think, is the community college system.
And we should have Pam Ramirez-Morin coming on.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. We are going to give you the floor, and thank you very much for being here, first of all. But you can proceed when you're ready.
Great. Senator Rafferty, Representative Brennan, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Pam Ramirez-Morin. I'm the CFO for the Maine Community College System. Prior to assuming this position, I was Dean of Finance and General Services at Central Maine Community College for close to a decade. To compile this report, MCCS used customized reporting features built into our business management systems. We then tested the validity of the reports and reviewed several transactions with college personnel to gather further documentation. Combined, the 7 colleges and the MCCS system office makes thousands of purchases each year. While reporting is complex, our review indicates that the college's compliance with the existing policies is extremely high, and expenditures are consistently mission related. In those few areas where we have identified need for improvement, refinements have been made or are underway. MCCS will continue to use its internal controls and annual external audit to adopt its systems to changing needs, and our Board of Trustees will continue to monitor compliance through regular reporting and an ongoing dialogue with our auditors. By their nature, certain transactions do not lend themselves to competitive procurement, so they are not included here. One such category includes payments to public utilities, municipalities, including law enforcement or municipal subdivisions that deliver such services as water and sewer, electricity, and municipal transportation. A second category includes payments for textbooks, certain academic supplies, and certain support services that are necessary to meet specific academic requirements. MCCS also purchases items for resale in the dining halls and food service operations. Procurement for resale items is competitive, but MCCS does not use a request for proposal or solicit bids from vendors. Items purchased for resale are marked with an asterisk to distinguish their procurement from operational supplies and services. In total, over 28,000 transactions totaling over $37.5 million were completed during the fiscal year 21 reporting period. This is down from fiscal year 20, which had 36,700 transactions totaling over $42.7 million. Transactions over $10,000 that were made without competitive procurement range in the 3 to 4% of total procurement for these 2 fiscal years. Some individual purchases reported are considerably less than $10,000, but because the aggregate value of the annual procurement from the same vendor is in excess of $10,000, they were included. In FY21, 18 of the 57 vendors reported here fall into that category. They represent 957 transactions, with just 43 transactions more than $1,000. In FY20, 15 of the 44 vendors reported fall into the aggregate category. They represent 1,039 transactions with just 27 transactions of more than $1,000. In fiscal year 21, 7 vendors were pandemic-related sole source instances compared to 6 vendors in FY20. Most of the procurements were either emergency cleaning related or sole sources based on availability. In all cases, the procurements are mission related, and the colleges closely adhere to the MCCS financial procedures to ensure that the system secures the best value in its procurement. MCCS has not issued any policy or procedure changes that have already not been reported. You have the report before you, or the reports before you, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Folks, who have any questions at this time? Seeing none, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here today with the information you provided, as well as the work you continue to do. Have a good day.
Thank you.
And next up will be the University of Maine system.
Good morning, Senator Rafferty and members of the committee. I am Sam Warren, Director of Government and Community Relations at the University of Maine System, and I appreciate the opportunity to discuss our system's sole source procurement reports from both FY20 and fiscal year 21 with you. I want to start, as our reports always do, by making clear that competitive procurement is, of course, the standard of Maine's public universities, not just because it is the law, but also because we want to ensure the greatest value for tuition and taxpayers, as well as transparency and fairness for our vendors, many of whom we're proud to say are Maine-based. In fact, in FY21, the system invested a record $60.6 million directly in the Maine economy through the local purchasing of goods and services, including more than $1.5 million in local food that we purchase from Maine's small farms and producers. The bar by which our procurements can be waived from the competitive bid process is high. Per system policy, a waiver from this process can never be justified based on price, preference, or urgency created by inadequate planning on the part of the university. That said, I acknowledge that our system has very unique procurement needs and responsibilities, which result in our report looking quite different from the others you'll see here today, both in the volume and the total value of the transactions reported. In FY20, the total value of UMS procurements for which the competitive process was waived was about $30 million, less than 1/5 of the system's total spending on goods and services that year. Less than 1/3 of that total waiver value reflects what we consider true sole source purchases, and I'll explain that in a moment. Meanwhile, in fiscal year 21, the total value of procurements for which the competitive process was waived was $35.4 million, less than 1/4 of our total spending on goods and services, and less than 1/4 of the total waiver value reflects, again, true sole source purchases. I do need to acknowledge that these totals are significantly higher than I've reported to the committee in years prior, and these are largely attributed to increased federal grant activity, which is really good news, and pandemic-related purchases, not so great news, of course. And I want to give a little context to that. So I'm really pleased to be the first to tell you that earlier today, Chancellor Malloy and President Joan Freeney-Mundy announced that the University of Maine has obtained coveted R1 status, meaning our flagship university has been ranked in the top tier of research universities in the nation. This is a really big deal for our state and for our students, and is only possible because of 2 decades of state investment in university R&D through the Maine Economic Improvement Fund, for which we thank you. With this land, sea, and space grant institution's high research activity that is of vital importance to the state comes the need to purchase specialized equipment or services that may only be available from one vendor and thus require a waiver from the competitive procurement process. For example, if a buoy and an ocean observing system that we have installed in the Gulf of Maine that provides ongoing essential data to fishermen and commercial shippers and emergency managers needs to be replaced, we often must buy that replacement from the company who manufactured the original technology to ensure compatibility in those systems. As a result of feedback from this committee, and as Hillary noted earlier this morning, in 2019, UMS began providing brief descriptions of procurements included in this report to provide that important context. Some of you may remember a conversation when the university presented its report a couple of years ago about helicopter charters that were on our systems report, which raised some eyebrows. And then once we provided the context that was for federally funded climate change ice core sampling in some far away place, I think the committee felt a little more comfortable about the procurement. So you'll see these descriptions in our report. And we also indicate if the funding source is from an external grant rather than a state appropriation. And finally, I would add, and I know will be of great interest to this committee, given the ongoing conversations we've had about our Board of Trustees, that our Board of Trustees does closely review this report at both the committee and full board level prior to its submission to the legislature. Additionally, the system at our universities often serve as a fiscal agent or a partner in federal grant awards. For example, the University of Maine at Farmington is the fiscal agent for Maine's federal Gear Up grant from the U.S. Department of Education. Funding has historically served more than 60 Maine middle and high school students each year, many in your rural districts, and supported thousands of low-income students prepare and be successful in post-secondary education. UMF receives the award as the fiscal agent, but the grant requires that we pass the money directly on to Maine schools and other partners. And so those transactions technically fall under the purview of this report, even though I don't think they are what you'd naturally think of as a sole source procurement. In both FY20 and FY21, about half of the total value of the reported procurements in our reports fall under this category of goods and services specifically named in grants. Finally, as you just talked about with the Honorable Richard Rosen, the science-driven leadership of the university in maintaining safe in-person learning, research, and other activities, while also addressing unique state and local needs during the pandemic, is well known to the committee, and it's something we're very proud of. It has also meant we were required to make some purchases for which the competitive bid process was not practicable during the state of emergency. Please know it is not common practice for the university to make large purchases of alcohol from Maine brewers and distillers, as you'll see on our FY20 report. However, doing so on an emergency basis in the early days of the pandemic was essential to our ability to produce thousands of gallons of hand sanitizer needed by Maine's frontline workers. Similarly, in the FY20 report, you'll see testing supplies and sampling services as part of our early detection COVID-19 wastewater testing that we did on our campuses and also in local communities like in Orono. Since procurement has become a unified function housed within the system office rather than independent operations at each university, our collective purchasing power as a system has saved tuition and taxpayers millions of dollars. In the 5-year period prior to the pandemic, it also had reduced our use of sole source waivers by about 1/3. If pandemic-related sole source purchases exacerbated by global supply challenges were excluded from these reports in front of you, the total reported here would be on par with pre-pandemic years. As you can see, our report is very extensive. You can imagine all the work that goes into reviewing each of these waiver requests and then documenting them on this report. I want to thank my colleagues in the System Office of Strategic Procurement for their good work on behalf of tuition and taxpayers and their assistance in preparing this report to you. Given how extensive our report is, it's likely I'm unable to answer your questions on specific procurements, but I'm happy to get those answers for you and follow up directly or with Hillary. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to answer what questions I can.
Thank you for being here and also for all that information in the report. It is pretty extensive and we appreciate that. Any questions, folks, at this time of Ms. Warren? Representative Millet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Ms. Warren. It's good to see you today. As somebody who is here and experienced the journey of these reports with our higher education institutions, I really do think that I recognize how much work is involved in it, but this is really a remarkable resource for any education geek or business economic development geek, because you're really getting some remarkable insight into what our higher education institutions are doing to support our economy and our workforce. So I'm one of those people who reads it from start to end, and there's just some really fantastic insights. One in particular that is paralleling another conversation that I've been having with folks around energy efficiency for housing. It relates to something, and it's the BDNE Inc. That's the contract that has been doing some feasibility studies for implementing the biomass to bioproducts in Maine. I've been part of a conversation where folks were a little puzzled about what happened to some of the really high energy enthusiasm on biomass products creating new construction materials. I'm doing a very poor job of explaining it, but I think you know where I'm going. So would just love to hear what the status of that is, because I do think that that's a really interesting area for our woods products that we have here in Maine, and love to know more about how Maine is involved in that work. Thanks.
Thank you for the recognition of the report. It is a lot of work, but I think you're right. It really captures all of the activity we're doing at the University of Maine system, and especially our research university, related to R&D and economic development, from forest products industry, which you inquired about, to aquaculture. And it is a really, I often need the translator as I'm putting together the report. I think of Representative Sampson on some of these highly technical oceanographic related purchases that we make, and maybe she can explain some of them to me. The university is very actively engaged, as you know, in the For Maine Coalition with the Maine Forest Products Council and industry, as we look to add value to our forests. Maine's vast forests, as you know, we're the most forested state in the nation. And we were really pleased that a coalition led by the University of Maine was selected as part of the federal EDA's Build Back Better Challenge. We were one of the top finalists for planning money, a significant planning grant, I think $500,000, that will allow us to develop a more extensive grant proposal for a pool of up to $1 billion as we continue to do really exciting R&D to transition this industry to the future. And so the purchase, I think you were referring to, reflects some of that market feasibility work that we're doing in partnership with the Maine Technology Institute, the Maine Forest Products Council, and other entities to consider what opportunities there are in the forest products industry, and would love to have you, maybe after session is best, up to you, Maine, to learn more about our plans for a green engineering and materials factory of the future. You may have seen coverage of this in the media. We are using some of the Maine Jobs and Recovery Act funds that the legislature appropriated last year, as well as on track for significant federal investment through earmarks championed by Senator Collins and King to build really a factory of the future, where we make things like affordable housing units and boats and transportation materials derived from Maine's forest feedstock. So a lot of really exciting work, and I'd love to follow up and give you a much more comprehensive overview. And we are really a global leader in this area, and it's one of the reasons, frankly, that we achieved the R1 status that I mentioned, is because of the the high level of activity specifically in the forest products innovation space. So let me get you more specifics because there are volumes of material and people far more informed than I, but please know that work has never been happening at such a high activity as it is now, and certainly the state and federal funding as well as industry funding to support that will accelerate it even further in the years to come.
Thank you very much. Folks, do we have any additional questions for Ms. Warren? Seeing none, again, thank you very much for being here, and we appreciate all the information you gave us. Congratulations on the new status today. That was nice to hear, and have a good afternoon. Thank you. I believe that concludes our reports this morning. And so I know Hillary presented two options. We can go through them one by one or collectively as a whole. I think collectively as a whole might be easier if there are no issues with any specific report. And I ask that if you have a specific report you'd like to set aside to vote on individually, would you make that request to me now? Having no request to do so, I'll ask that we vote for approval on the reports. And I'm gonna defer to some experience here. I don't know if we need to do this as a motion and like we normally would, or somebody help me in that area. Anyone?
I think typically in the past it has been done with a motion, although I think a show of hands rather than a full roll call is probably appropriate. Although I leave all official determinations on parliamentary procedure to the chairs.
And if the chair is asking, you might want to withdraw that comment. But in any case, Representative Dodge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would make the motion that we accept with great thanks the quasi-independent state entity reports that were offered to our committee this morning.
Thank you for that motion. Do I have a second?
Second, with a friendly amendment of we authorize the letters to acknowledging the receipt and that there were no issues.
Thank you very much. So we do have a motion with that amendment. Any additional questions, comments? All those in favor, please just raise your hand. And well, I guess I got to make sure mine can be seen. And lower those. Any in opposition only, please. Any in opposition? Seeing none. The motion carries. Thank you very much. Eli, you okay with numbers? You're good? All right.
And what I'll do is similar to the GEA, I'll just draft up that letter, and I think I still owe you the final letter for the Department of Education's GEA anyway. So I'll draft those all up together and send them out to you via email. And if anyone has any questions or concerns at that point, if you let me know, I'll talk to the chairs about bringing it up in committee again, but otherwise we will send those letters off.
Thank you very much for that, Hillary. Appreciate it. Representative Dodge, did you have a question? Or you? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll start with apologies. The first question is for Ms. Risler. Is there a place where I could find information about if there is any role that OPEGA plays in the reports that we just heard?
Yes, so actually the report, the letter that I'm drafting actually goes directly to the Government Oversight Committee, who directs OPEGA to do certain work. So these letters will go to OPEGA and the reports go to OPEGA.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And this is for Eli. My link to next Tuesday has evaporated. I trust that that will be handled next week. You are always so great about sending another link. So thank you for that.
You all should receive reminder links, but if it continues to not be there, I'll send you another one.
All set. Any other questions, folks? Well, thank you for your work today as well as throughout the week. I know that we have a lot going on, obviously, and I appreciate all that you've done for us. Hillary does have a hand up.
Just a little housekeeping. I will send out that big annual CDS report that was mentioned today shortly after we finish up. So you will have that. And as I mentioned, the chairs will be working on finding a time to schedule that for presentation for the committee. I also, again, I sent an email this morning about next Tuesday. And because that rules process can be a little bit daunting, JC Holmes from the department and I are going to put our heads together and put a little presentation together for the committee before we start those presentations, with her focusing on the background on the department and their process and some background on the rules. And I'll give an overview of that process now for you, since the rules have been submitted to the legislature. But if there are any specific questions that anyone has, especially anyone who hasn't gone through this process before or has questions about the process, feel free to just email me, and JC and I will try to make sure that we address those questions preemptively in our report.
Thank you for doing that. I know that I did have a conversation with some committee members yesterday that was the report itself and the paperwork is kind of daunting. So looking for focal points I know is what we were looking for in some direction in any case. Well, anything else? Well, yes. Oh, Senator Daughtry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had my internet repeatedly die and restart. So Eli, I don't know if you want me to stay on for the vote I missed, if that makes it easier.
You certainly can, yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can hear my phone ringing, so can you probably, but that's all right. Thanks for a great week. Have a great day. Thank you.
I could hear the vote getting called as my computer crashed.
Sure.
I figured I'd stay on quickly just because Senator Daughtry, it was just the quasi-independent agency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Accepting and letter. And you'll get a draft letter before it goes out.
Perfect. So then I assume, was it a unanimous vote?
Yes.
I would register my vote as the same.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Is there anything else I'm missing for you, Eli?
I don't believe so. I haven't sent out requests for signatures yet, but everything vote-wise, you guys, I think, are all set on.
Perfect. Then thank you both. Have a
Thank
great
you so
weekend.
much.
Have a good weekend. Have a good snow day. If we